Hello, and welcome to our video. Has your Data Hub workspace run out of storage due to all the data that it contains, or would you like it to be able to store more data? Would you like to have a centralized place to have all your data from S3, Microsoft Azure, Google BigQuery, your Anaplan models, and even your CSV files? Do you have files with multiple formats, but you don't know how to create the script that consolidates them into a single format that is compatible with your Anaplan models? The Anaplan Data Orchestrator can help you with all of this and more. But what is the Anaplan Data Orchestrator? The Anaplan Data Orchestrator, or ADO, is a tool that simplifies how data flows into Anaplan models. Think of it as a central data engine that 1. Connects to different data sources, such as files, databases, or other systems. 2. Transforms that data, as in cleaning it, reorganizing it, or combining it. 3. Stores it efficiently in one place. 4. Disseminates or pushes the right data into Anaplan models at the right time. And 5. Maps out how the data moves and changes. These are known as the 5 pillars of ADO. Remember, you need integration admin permission to use ADO. The first pillar is connect. ADO facilitates connections with common external source systems that provide data to Anaplan models. To add a connection source system is pretty easily. You come into connections, you click create connections, select the relevant connector. In this case, we will use S3, that is Amazon AWS. Then you click next. Then you will give the connection a name. In this case, let's make it something like S3 connection. And you can add a description. Then you will click into next and add your credentials. For this, you will need your AWS key, your AWS secret key, and your bucket name. After that, you will click on next. After ADO successfully tests the connection, click done and then next. You must click next to create the connection. Please remember that for this connection with S3, you will need the access key, the secret access key, the bucket name, and the path to the file. The store pillar of ADO is about establishing a repository for the organization's shared data and master data tables. It's the ultimate source of truth in the Anaplan ecosystem. ADO understands semantics like what a product or customer is, and the complexity of Anaplan model objects like how lists make up hierarchies or line items and modules. Thanks to the ADO storage, you don't need to build a separate data hub model inside Anaplan for all of your data. Instead, ADO handles it, making it easier to manage large amounts of data and freeing Anaplan model builders to focus on planning tasks. Think of ADO storage as a big disk-based warehouse for your data, rather than storing everything in memory as Anaplan does. Because it's disk-based, ADO can hold much larger amounts of data, like terabytes instead of gigabytes, without eating up your Anaplan workspace. Let's check the first way to create a dataset, and that is by uploading a CSV file. So you'll want to come into source data, and once it loads, you want to click add data and from file. This will open up a square where you can drop the file that you want to upload. Please remember that ADO only accepts CSV files at this time. Once you drop it, you will see the name of the file and you will see an auto-generated name. You can change this, and in this example, we will change it to G2 countries test. Then you click upload. You can see that now we have one item in progress, and that is the dataset that is being created from the CSV file. We just need to let it load, and now you can see that the dataset has been created successfully. If you click on it, you can check some details like its name, and where to check it in the map. But what if the data in the CSV eventually gets updated and now you need to update the dataset? For that, you'll need to do a resync. So you'll come and hover over the dataset that you want to update, look for the ellipsis at the end, and click it. Now you'll need to click Sync Data, and this will open a square for you to drop the file. So you'll need to drop the updated version of the CSV here and click Upload. Now you can see that we have one item in progress. Just need to wait for that to finish, and once it's completed, you can open the dataset and check that the new information has been added to it. Now, let's review the second method to add a dataset into ADO, and that is through the use of an Anaplan model. So you click Add Data, and this time you select From Model, you select your workspace and the model that you want to pull the data from. Click Next, and you can see that you can select modules, lists, or hierarchies. If you want to use a module, it's just as simple as selecting it, and list, you can select it as well. Please remember that this is for flat lists. Instead, if you want to check a hierarchy, you select it and you can select the whole branch, or instead you can select an individual list from that hierarchy. In this case, we will use E2 employees. Now you click Edit List, and you can preview the data. Then you click Next. You will see that now we have one item in progress, so we just need to wait for it to be uploaded, and once it's completed, you can click on it and see the contents of the dataset. Now, what if the data in the module, list, or hierarchy gets updated and you want to update your dataset? Then it's as simple as going for the ellipsis and click Sync Data. That's it. Now you can see that we have one item in progress. You just need to wait for it to be completed, and the data has been updated. The third way to upload your data into ADO is through the use of a connection. In this case, the datasets are known as data extracts. And for that, all you need to do is come into Add Data and click From Connection. You will select the connection that you want to use and you will name it. You can add a description if you want, and you need to add the path name to your file. Remember that the path name is in the settings of your file in the S3 bucket. And remember as well that this may look different depending on the connector that you use. You can select your column separator, your text delimiter, where the header row is, in which row, and where the data starts, in which row. And then you'll click Next. You'll need to wait until ADO finds the file in your S3 bucket. Once it loads, you can select the type of your load. It can be a full replace to replace all the existing data with new data. You can make an append that will only add new data to the dataset without overwriting anything, or you can add an incremental that will update your matching rows and insert new ones if required. Let's do a full replace in this case, and you can select the columns that you want to use and click Next. You will click on Create and wait for it to be completed. You can see that one item is in progress now, so let's let it load. The dataset has been created, and you can click it just to check it. Transform is another pillar of ADO. Source data that has been loaded to ADO are stored as datasets, which can then be converted or manipulated. The outcome of these data manipulations are transformation views, which present restructured and combined data in the precise format needed for downstream Anaplan models. Let's see how to create a transformation view. Click Create View and then name your transformation view. In this case, let's name it to countries. You can add a description if you want, and then click Next. Now you will need to select a dataset that you want to use as the source for your transformation view. We will, we will use our G2 countries test and click Next. You need to select the columns that you want to add to the transformation view. You can add all of them or just the ones you need. And then you can rename them as well. Then click Create. The transformation view has been created. But what if you have more information in another dataset that you would like to add here? For that, we can use Join or Union. Join adds new columns of data to the primary dataset. For that, you have two options, a join lookup or an inner join. A lookup adds new columns from the new dataset, known as the join dataset, to the primary dataset. If there is no matching value in the join key columns, the new columns will have a null value, and the resulting dataset will have the same number of rows as the primary dataset if all join keys have a one-to-one match. Instead, an inner join adds new columns from the join dataset to the primary dataset. If there is no matching value in the join key columns, the row does not appear in the resulting dataset. If there are no matching values in the join key, the resulting dataset will be empty. Now let's create a join. In this case, we will use a lookup, and for this I will use the products transformation view. This transformation view comes from the products dataset. That will be our primary dataset. And now we want to select the dataset that we will use as our join dataset. We select product size, we click next, and now we need to select our key column. In this case, we will use product as we have a product code in the primary dataset, and in the join dataset, we click next. We select the source columns that we will use. Let's rename this to just code and click add. And now you can see that our transformation view contains the size of the products. Now let's see how you can add rows to a transformation view, and for that you can use the button Union. Select the dataset you want, in this case let's use products details, and click next. Now you can map the columns to the join transformation view, or you can click auto map columns. In this case we will leave code as we already have one and click add. You can see it's loading and a message saying that the union data succeeded. And now we can see that we have more rows in our transformation view. If you want, you can manually add a column to your transformation view, and for that all you need to do is click the add button. Let it load, and you can see that a new column was added successfully. You can rename it to anything you want, say example, and click save. There we go. Now, if you would like to delete a column instead, what you can do is come to the column, select it, click delete, and the column has been successfully deleted. Now, let's use the employees transformation view to explain formulas. Please remember that formulas can only be applied in transformation views because this is where all the data manipulation happens. First, let's start by clicking a column, and you can see that you have this here. This is basically how transformation view works. They work by means of reference, and what it's doing is referencing the data source and the column in that data source. So we can have the start date, country name, and so on, so on. If you want to add a formula, You can't double click here like you can do in Anaplan. Instead, you need to come to the FX edit button and click it. Now you can see the formula editor, and this one works pretty much alike like the one in Anaplan. If you start typing your formula, you get a function suggested to you. In this case, we will use cast. We will add date here, and we will close the parentheses. What this formula does is change this number to a date format. So now we can click apply, and you can see that now we have it as a date. Let's add a second formula to our transformation view. In this case, it is a function that changes this true or false to Boolean in case you would like to have this as a Boolean format. And for that, all we need to do is click the FX edit button. You add the equal sign, quotation marks, and true, except we need this to be in all capitals, and click apply. Now we can check our work and we can see that all the ones that were true are now marked in Boolean. But what if you wanted to remove this? What if you needed it to be true or false instead of Boolean? You can undo a formula just by clicking on the FX edit button and deleting all the items of the function. You click apply, and since the transformation view works by means of references, it just goes back to referencing its column in the data source instead of applying the formula. ADO has another useful tool, and that you can see it by just right-clicking a column. You can see that we have set data type, and this basically applies formulas to transform the data type to another data type. For example, you can see that the leave date has this symbol. This means that leave date is a string or text. And you can see that our start data has this symbol. That means it is a data type. So if we want to make this a date type, we can just right click it, select date, and you can see change column type applied, and now it has the cast formula. So it is a data type. We can do the same for current salary, right click it, and click integer. This is basically a number type of data. And for commission, we could do the same with float. And there we go. So this is a pretty easy way to change to your data type. And of course, you can always come to FX Edit if you want to change this. Now let's use this aggregate transformation view to check on another tool from ADO, aggregate. And for that, you only need to come to aggregate, and you'll notice that it's disabled by default. You will enable it, and for numbers, you will have the sum aggregation as default, and for others, you will have the group by. In this example, we will leave the revenue as sum, and we will count by period. Click apply. And now you can see that for this period, we have 4 entries and the total comes to 7,000. If instead you come and disable the aggregation, you will have the original setting back. Now let's take a look at the final tool from the transformation views, the filters. You can see that we have a detail filter and an aggregate filter. First of all, if you have aggregate disabled, the aggregate filter won't be available to you. You need to have an aggregation first. Let's see the detail filter. Let's do it by account name that is equal to, and let's say just True Candy. You save the filter and then you apply it. Now you can see that all the accounts are through Candy. Be aware that you can add as many filters as needed. Then let's see the aggregation filter. In this case, you can see that we can only see the columns that were aggregated, count and sum and revenue. So is greater or equal to, and let's say 3000. You click save, apply, and now you can see that we're now only seeing the True Candy accounts that have an aggregation revenue bigger than 3000. Also, you can see a line right here to indicate that we are being applied an aggregation, a detail filter, and an aggregate filter. The next pillar of ADO is Disseminate, and it refers to the process of pushing data from ADO to the spoke models. ADO administrators create links to map transformation views in ADO to spoke models in Anaplan models. Links can be scheduled to run in workflow, allowing updates to members of a model hierarchy to be pushed simultaneously to all spoke models using that hierarchy or in a specific sequence. This differs from data hub processes, where spoke models pull data from the hub via model-to-model import. ADO ensures consistency of model objects across all of the Anaplan ecosystem. Please keep in mind that the Anaplan objects such as modules, hierarchies, or flat lists can only be targeted by one model link. You can't use more than one model link to target the same Anaplan object, so use it carefully. Instead, transformation views, you can use the same transformation view in multiple model links to multiple Anaplan objects. Let's create a model link. The process to create a model link consists of two parts. The first one being the actual creation of the link, and the second one, the mapping of the link. So for that, we want to come into Create Link, select the workspace and the model. We will click Next, and we will select the Anaplan object that we need. You can select a module, a list, or a hierarchy. In our case, we need a list in the hierarchy, and for that, we will select the product family, come to list, and select P2 products. Click edit list, and here you can check an overview of your selected objects. In this case, we'll have one item from a hierarchy, and click done. There you go. The model link has been created, and you can see that it has a status of a question mark. To change that status, we need to map the model link to an actual transformation view or source data. So we will click Choose Input. Now we will look for the transformation view that we need. In this case, we need the product details. Click Next. Now you can auto map this, or you can click the auto map columns button. You can see that the status changed to a green check mark, indicating that this is good. And just to be sure, double check it, but in this case the auto map did a good job. Click Continue, and you can see that now our products has a green check mark, and that means that the mapping was successful. Now, if you want to move the data from the transformation view into the Anaplan object you selected, you need to come to the ellipsis, click Push Data, and you will see that we have now an item in progress. Also, it got updated successfully, so that's good. And you can come into the ellipsis and rename the link to something that is meaningful to you. And finally, the last pillar of ADO is the map. It provides a visualization of the flow from source data through transformations to the Anaplan models and objects which use it. This mapping helps you to understand how the data is being used and where, making data maintenance easier. You can also click here to have a little legend of the mapping. You can see that purple is data extracts, blue is module, this darker blue is connections, transformation view, and so on and so on. Also, you can click on a specific object if you want to check where it comes from and where it's being fed to. So in this case, these actual sales come from S3 to a connection named training. They go to sales, and these are different transformation views that you can check to understand better your data orchestrator.